Okay, this is uncharted waters for me because it's my first time doing a video about a video game when I primarily cover seasonal anime. So, I want to ask you to be a bit forgiving if I make any mistakes here. I tend to learn as I go, so yeah. If I miss a particular talking point, it's either I forgot or I don't have enough information or experience to form an opinion on them. And yes, I'm well aware that version 2.3 ended several weeks ago. But I wanted to start there since it's the anniversary patch. So let's begin. Starting off with the QOLs first, as they're the easiest to talk about, the birthday blessing. Well, I know a bunch of people who mistook it as a resonator selector. Technically, it was, but it wasn't the way most people who decided to waive their right to read had expected. But assuming you did read what it's for, then the entire feature is a really neat way to commemorate your birthday in the game. It even includes a free accessory in the form of a crown for this first year, so no sane person would complain about that. Next on our QOL list is Auto Sprint and Sustain Sprint. At first, I had both of them on when the patch came out, but after a while, I had to turn off Sustain Sprint. Because, let's be real, it's hard to justify its use, and when you have it on, more likely than not, you'll be doing a lot of sharp turns and brakes just to avoid going over your intended destination. So, until there's a practical use for Sustain Sprint, you only need Auto Sprint 99% of the time. Next on the list, boss respawn. Very self-explanatory. I mean, who doesn't want faster grinding times? So this is an easy dub for the patch, and to make things interesting, I'll put a counter here, just so we can count how many things I like in the patch, denoted by Yang Yang, Chisha, for those that needs improvement, basically anything that could be better, or it's something that isn't great for now, but might be in the future, and the last one, Baiju, for the straight up bad things. Birthday Blessing, Yang Yang gets it. Auto Sprint, also for Yang Yang. I'm going to give Sustain Sprint to Chisha, because at least you're not forced to use it, just an option and could have its uses in the future. And Boss Respawns, which obviously goes to Yang Yang. So we have 3 goodies now and 1 okay-ish point at the moment. Next and last QOL I can think of are modifiers. Some would say that this is bad because it doesn't solve the endgame issue regarding Echo XP and Echo tuners. Others would claim that this was implemented to justify the inclusion of 4 cost echoes that belong to multiple Sonata sets. Both propositions are comprehensible, but I never thought of modifiers that way. When I first saw it in the live stream, I guess, the first thing that came to my mind was, finally, I never need to worry about grinding longer than I should just to get the right main stat ever again. And to this day, I still think of modifiers using that framework. So, while it's not a solution to some of the more pressing concerns regarding the echo grind, it definitely was for those like me who couldn't be bothered to farm echoes in-game like an MMORPG player or a player of any grinding intensive game. I know what mind-numbing grinding sessions are, so modifiers are an easy dub in this day and age, so to Yang Yang it goes. Moving on to the events of this patch, first off, the Tidal Photography event. I didn't do this, so I can't say anything about it, and it's going to the new category denoted by Sanwa. Basically, anything I can't comment on, and to be honest, I only mentioned it because I want to know for those who participated in this one, how did it go for you? Anyway, the next event, which really isn't, but presented as one, was the Memory Travelogue. It's basically just a retelling of certain important scenes in previous quests, but in the aesthetic of the cubes, which was the theme of the patch. I haven't finished doing this, but since it's permanent, I have no qualms with it, which means I'm giving this one to Yang Yang. Next on the list, it's Carnival time. Lads, I don't have friends, so obviously I can't do this event. But for those that do have friends or have a lot of alt accounts masquerading as friends, then good for you. I'm giving this one to Chisha because it's an incentive to get some players back in the game, but the fact remains that people like me have no means of accomplishing this. It would be nice if there's an alternative for the friendless, such as I, where you can still get a similar amount of astrites, but you'll only get it after the patch. Just to remind everyone that it's preferable to invite players for a higher astrite gain, but that's my band-aid suggestion for now. Moving on, a gilded night market. Probably one of the most controversial parts of the patch. When I first checked this out and saw the objectives that you can do to get more of the currency needed to buy stuff in it, I immediately said to myself, this is a small rebate promo, isn't it? I had that view for the entirety of the patch, and I still do today, but there are complaints about it made by other players. The main concern was that it pressured some of the players to pull just to ensure that they get everything in the night market. If that was the problem, then I find that rather peculiar because how could anyone not pull at all during the anniversary patch? Excluding Cantarella, Camellia, and Shorekeeper as they had their banners in 2.2, literally every single 5-star resonator and their weapon had a rate up. So chances are, it's more likely that there is something that you can pull for in the patch rather than nothing. I pulled for Stringmaster, Chacona, and Woodland Aria. So the night market was more of a bonus pull rebate plus some resources in comparison to how many pulls I had to do. But sure, let's entertain the complaint a bit more. Just so everyone can stop seeing the event as a bad thing in the future, the best solution I can think of at the moment is that all of the obtainable pulls shouldn't be locked behind a currency requirement. So if it's structured that way, players can still get all of the pulls at the cost of the other rewards, should the rare scenario of not pulling in the patch happen to them. Of course, this assumes that Kuro's watching this video and agrees to that suggestion, so they would implement that. And yes, this event goes to Chisha. Next event is Cubey Derby, aka Uma Musume, but it's cubes. From the controls perspective, this is the easiest event to do because you'll just do a few clicks, going all in on whoever's your favorite character or whoever has the better payout. Probably a minute of clicks and you're done for the day. It's easy, except it has an issue. And what is that issue? It's the rather restrictive voting period of each race. It's simply a bad event if you're the type to only log in at night because by that point, the race has happened and you get absolutely nothing because you weren't able to bet. This automatically locks certain groups of players out of its rewards, which isn't fair. Not their fault for having a life during the voting period. As for me, twice I wasn't able to bet because I was out for 2 whole days. No internet on my phone and got home past the voting period. So I lost out on some credits. Far from the worst case scenario, but it hurts the completionist in me. If Kuro wants to make future iterations of this event a dub for all players, one suggestion I have in mind is to simply make the voting period span an entire day and have the race happen on the following day. The event will end up being longer, but at least everyone gets a fair shot. And until they make this event more accessible, this one stays with Chisha. Moving on from betting on cubes is Cube, Cubic, and Cubey, the flagship event of the patch. Starting off with the good parts, you have
Fippy, Fippy, Choopy, Fippy, Choopy, Fippy, Fippy, Fippy Choopy.
and the story as a whole is rather cute and stress-free. My only nitpick with its story is that, given that the characters are just projections in relation to Rover's perception of them, every interaction between each playable character in the event story didn't really happen the way we would have liked. Sure, we saw Jinxie and Kartathea together, but is it too much to ask for a real encounter between the two of them, or any combination of the playable characters involved? As for the combat portion of the event, it seemed complex at first, but once you get the mechanics, it plays easily. And like the story, I also have a nitpick on the combat. When I did the event, I simply spammed Jinxie, Phoebe, and Roche's skills all throughout the 15 levels that are tied to the event story as soon as I got them. How is that a nitpick? Well, it would have been great if certain stages required you to use specific cubes. But since it didn't, the gameplay ended up being a bit narrow. Like, why change characters when the current lineup gets the job done? So, yeah, as a flagship event, this goes to Chisha. It's relatively good, but could have been better, both in story and combat. But just to be clear, BB Chupi easily goes to Yang Yang. Having said that, it's time to talk about the last event, and the one event that I didn't like, Dreaming Deep. So, what's my problem with this event? You can try to guess what it is, but I doubt you'll get it right. So, you know how at the start of this event, but it's not really an event because it's permanent and the time-limited rewards can be claimed way past 2.3, Rover gets told that he or she is invited to attend a film festival. So I was like, a film festival. So the gameplay is going to revolve around films, right? Well, as soon as the event proper started, everything I did had nothing to do with films. And no, calling the mana of this event film roles doesn't fix the conceptual and thematic mismatch that happened here. It's like going to an Italian restaurant and finding out that they don't serve any pizza or pasta. Why did Kuro make this event about a film festival when everything you do isn't about making a film or watching a film? Look, I don't mind reading stuff, but if the event wants me to read so much text when it's supposed to be about a film festival, at least make the theme about heading into a library instead. Sure, it might still bore me with how verbose the presentation is at its current state and the fact that I prefer visual experiences because this is a 3D action game, but at least you're entering the event with the appropriate mindset in a thematic sense. So yeah, no way I'm not giving this to Baiju. Even her emoji captures my internal frustration with how off the mark this event is. Having talked about the events, let's talk a bit about the anniversary banners. Personally, I like the fact that, with the exception of 3 characters from the previous version, everyone's available to pull during this version. The only thing I don't like about the anniversary banner is that they separated the rerun characters into 2 phases. I can get behind the new ones, Zani and Chakona being separate, that's standard stuff for a gacha game, but if Kuro wants to maximize player friendliness for the anniversary banners, every rerun character and their weapon should be available for the entirety of the version. Because in its current state, you can get into a situation where, say for example, you want to get Carlotta first and whatever pulls you have left, you go for Jeju. But because Jeju is in phase 1 and Carlotta is in phase 2, you're in a bad spot, plain and simple. As for the players that are saying that the anniversary banner is a very greedy move by Kuro, if we're basing it on the example that I just said regarding Carlotta and Jeju, then yeah, it is greedy. But if the argument is that the banners are forcing the players to pull for everyone, like all 10 resonators plus their weapons, then I'm not sorry to inform these players that they have little to no self-control at all. Think of it like this. Do you want a guarantee where the longest a character gets a rerun is 1 year because of a mechanic like the anniversary banner? If your answer is yes, then my next question is, when is the best time to implement a banner with everyone in it, if not the anniversary patch? And to add, if you don't want Kuro to implement such a banner on the first anniversary, when should they? Especially if the goal is to make the anniversary patch a beacon that tells everyone that if you missed a character's rerun, you can just wait for the anniversary. If you don't want it now because you don't have enough pulls for the characters, then you're essentially denying others the chance to get a character they like when circumstances could have prevented them from getting them on their previous banner. Remember, you're not the only player with a checklist of characters to pull. So, in summary, I welcome the addition of a banner that almost has everyone in it. Kuro only needs to make future iterations of this banner have characters and their weapons available for the entire patch, and it would have been perfect. So, until then, the anniversary banners go to Chisha. As for the rewards part of this version, this is where I realized that the Wuthering Waves community needs a size reduction. Why? While I don't deny that I benefited from the temper tantrums of the players regarding the total amount of free premium currency given, I despise how the community is infested with a certain type of tourist. The type that never cared about the game at all. And those are what I would call the beggars. There's this line from Lionel Johnson, Primarch of the Dark Angels from the Warhammer 40k franchise, where he says, "Loyalty is its own reward." If we replace the word loyalty with enjoyment, then you get enjoyment is its own reward. This line of thinking is how any player should approach a video game. If you're enjoying the game, that's great. But for the beggars, they measure a gacha game's enjoyment not in its gameplay or story, but in its developer's generosity. It's like, for them, gacha games are simply avenues to express their gambling desires, when not all gacha games are that dry in content to be considered as such. I remember watching the live stream for version 2.3, thinking that it wasn't the most generous first anniversary in all of gacha history if you can't help but compare it to other games, but to get a free pair of wings, a crown accessory if your birthday is up, some decorative elements for your profile, plus a bunch of pulls when gacha companies are never under any obligation that requires them to give a certain amount of freebies every anniversary, I never felt so disconnected with the community as soon as I saw the outcry that the freebies are too low. What do they mean by too low? Was playing the game not their main form of enjoyment? Was it not the story with visuals that could fool most people into thinking that Wuthering Waves is a 3D anime with video game mechanics? I was having a lot of fun with the game before 2.3. But after 2.3, I still do. But I lost faith in the community after their public display of gambling addiction. If they argue that Kuro gave out a free Shang Liao in the past and that the early patches had a lot of freebies, then they've conveniently forgotten about the fact that the game was in a terrible state back then. And every freebie at the time was to compensate for that. It's essentially damage control for Kuro back then. If Wuthering Waves came out without issues on day one, I doubt Kuro would give as many freebies as they did. And that's fine, because being able to pull for characters wasn't my main source of enjoyment. If the gameplay and story were bad, no amount of freebies is going to make me continue playing the game. And if I may add, if any of you have operated a gachapon machine in the past, I worked part-time in a store once that had them, so I had to ensure these things work as intended. A gacha game like Wuthering Waves is barely a gacha anymore, because the real gacha experience involves never knowing what's going out of that machine, and you're supposed to just accept what you got. Wuthering Waves has pity, plain and simple, and while I don't deny that it still sucks to lose the 50-50, Wuthering Waves would still feel like the most generous thing in comparison to the randomness that a gachapon machine has. And I highly doubt that any of these beggars have played Brave Frontier, the granddaddy of modern gacha games, and a real gacha game at its core. No pity for its banners, so you can do 1,000 pulls and still lose a first anniversary that only gave like what, 6.6 pulls over a month? And yet, when I played this game with my classmates and batchmates back in high school, it was never the pulls that kept us going and playing for years. It was the experience of trying to beat content with whatever units we had back then. Looking at Wuthering Waves players today, more specifically the ones who partook in complaining to Kuro because of the freebies that didn't match their expectations, lads, we have a beggar situation in the community. I'd rather see Wuthering Waves be niche and not popular if it meant no beggars in the community. So, the anniversary rewards, I'm giving this to Sanwa, on the basis that this is the game's first go at freebies for an anniversary. So until we see the freebies for the second anniversary, we don't have the data to judge the quality of this anniversary's freebies. And no, using other gacha games as reference on what makes a good anniversary is not the way to go, because each gacha game has their own set of circumstances dictating their trajectory as a game. What the neighbors do to their players, they have their reasons for doing so. Moving on from the freebie discussion, we still have a few more items on the list. The new characters, to be precise. Zani as a character is an easy dub, so Yang Yang gets her. As a playable kit, Zani goes to Chisha, simply because at her current state, unless Phoebe and Spectro Rover are available to team up with her, you're never getting her damage ceiling assuming S0R1. But that doesn't make her unplayable, considering that Aethon over here soloed Tower of Adversity with Zani S0R1. Granted, his Zani has strong echoes, but considering that the average TOA participant would at least have a team for Zani with or without Phoebe and Spectre Rover, the players will be fine so long as said team can pump up damage numbers similar or higher to Aethon's Zani solo run. As for Zani's companion story, A Blaze in the Dark, it's an easy dub, so to Yang Yang it goes. Though I have to say, her preference to sweets over coffee because work is bitter enough as it is, that's going to get a few coffee lovers in a bind regarding their opinion on Zani. But that's no longer my problem. As for Chacona, if my profile picture and the background of this video didn't warn you enough on how this would end, I have a short story to share. Remember when she first appeared in After the Overture for like 2 seconds? That was my first encounter with her, and my mind instantly went, Wandering Redhead Elf Bard. Say no more, Kuro. I'm locked in. Just as I'm locked in when I first saw Karthathea. So yes, I would like to brag that I'm an OG as far as Chacona enjoyers would go. I didn't need to see her entire outfit or her first appearance in the story in version 2.2 to get me on the hype train. All I needed was this shot, and I was in, like a stock trader that fell for Bogdanov's trap. So obviously, she goes to Yang Yang as a character and her kit, which I didn't expect to deal so much damage and crowd control for someone who's just supposed to make fights more amusing with her concert. As for her event story, Your Summer Will Never Wither, it's perfect, but actually not. It's not perfect. While I love the story because I'm clearly off the rails when it comes to our wandering redhead elf bard, I despise the inspiration mechanic. Because let's be real, if we're allowed to do it, we could have done the entire event story in one session. But because of this mana bottleneck called inspiration, you're forced to spend 2 more days, I think, just to complete it. So this event story, to Chisha it goes. That inspiration thing needs to be removed in future iterations of this type of event story. At this point, I would like to end the video now, but a few words regarding holograms, Whimpering Wastes, and Tower of Adversity. All of them go to Sanwa, because I haven't bothered to do endgame yet. I'm still waiting to finish building most of my characters, so until then, I'm not interested with doing these game modes for now. And no, I'm not feeling any FOMO for missing out on the astrites that I could get from each cycle of Whimpering Wastes and Tower of Adversity, because guess what? I'm not a beggar. So yeah, here's a table showing the breakdown of how version 2.3 was for me. There are a lot of good things in it, but also a lot that needs improving. So yeah, that's it from me for Wuthering Waves version 2.3. Until next time then, everyone.